My name is Lafayette Williams. I am from the people of the Great Hills, and I'm from the Beaver Clan. I'm from the Canondagan Reservation as well, and I work for the Foods Our Medicine Project. I am the project assistant, and we are in partnership with the Friends of Canondagan. And what we are doing is a white corn project together in collaboration. And I would like to introduce Jeanette, the director, I believe.
No, I'm the program director.
Program
Meg is
director?
the executive director.
Yep, so I'm
Meg
Meg
is the program
Joseph,
director.
I'm the executive director of Friends of Canondagan. And Friends of Canondagan, for those who don't know, is a not-for-profit organization that supports Canondagan State Historic Site. So Canondagan State Historic Site is a former 17th century Seneca village, and we have a reproduction of a longhouse there, as well as the new Seneca Art and Culture Center is there. That opened in October. Part of what Friends of Canondagan does is we have the Iroquois White Corn Project, which has been part of Friends of Canondagan for about 3 years, a little over 3 years, and we grow and process heirloom Iroquois white corn. And we are now in partnership with Seneca Nation Food is Our Medicine to really raise the awareness of the benefits of Iroquois white corn, not only the health benefits, but also the cultural and spiritual benefits of the corn. And part of that is our cooking workshop that you're here today.
So one of the things that we're going to do is, before we spend too much time talking, is we need to get you cooking. So you each have one of these books, and one of the first things that it does is it tells you how to cook the hulled white corn. So we've already taken the time to remove the hull from the white corn, and now it's been dehydrated. So what we need to do is rehydrate it, just like you would with dried beans. And so there's several different ways, if you notice that, on how you can do this. But some is just, basically on the stovetop, just like you would with dried beans. But another way is that we've learned is that you can do this right in your own crock pot. And I've done, I get it together at night, and whatever, if I take a pound of it, put it in a crock pot, fill that with water, put it on low, cover it up, put it on low, and I go to bed. And then the next morning I come down to the smell of the corn, and I rinse it and put it in my refrigerator, and then use it. The texture of that type of corn pops a little bit more, because the longer that it cooks, the more that it will kind of blossom, is what we call it. So there's another way that we have found that's a lot quicker, and which is by using your pressure cooker. So if you have a pressure cooker, we've already set this one up. We did that as soon as we came in, and it's over in the kitchen, and when you come to the kitchen, you'll see it. And I want you to see what the corn looks like. So you've already had a chance to see what the corn looks like dry. And now I've put it in the pressure cooker. It's been in there. I set it for 50 minutes. It takes about 10-15 minutes for the pressure cooker to get hot enough, and then it starts counting down. So I have found that with 50 minutes in the pressure cooker, it comes just that texture that I really like, which is kind of, it's just tender. And then I can add it to soups or stews or whatever I want. But what I'd like to do is have you come into the kitchen, and we'll get started by having you look at the corn first. And what I'm going to need to do with the pressure cooker is I need to release the pressure from that. But while we're in there, we're going to start working. Okay? And then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about the corn and how important it is to you as Seneca people, and that we're hoping that this is just a first step in getting everyone excited about using it, and to see the easy ways that you can get it back on your table again.
Or is it?
I just want to keep everybody hands-on.
Well, it's nice meeting you. Angel, right?
No, I don't. I leave out. Unless there's
And so who wants to blend? We have a blender over here, so we'll take a bowl. Oh, no, thank you. Yep, blend the butter with the sugar.
Ooh, butter.
Yeah.
We'll make that lovely Iroquois white corn.
Yeah, we all wash our hands.
Okay.
This one here? Yep.
And a preheated oven to 400 degrees.
Yes, you can.
That's what I really wanted.
Yeah.
One probably.
And if that's,
Yeah,
that's
start with
something,
that.
if that's what you'd like to have, you need to put that on your, yeah, there's like a survey.
I thought before that you haven't done anything with it, so I wasn't quite sure how to do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Great.
Sorry, Bruce.
So sharp.
I know. Okay, so while she's doing that, we can get the flour mixture ready. So we need 3 cups of corn flour. Hey, Kim. Okay. You want it more?
The idea about building all day, some of the conservation
Keep this here.
and all that
We're
good
gonna blend a
stuff.
little bit more.
Alright. Conservation and good.
Alright, so you got 3 cups in there.
Hey Rose,
And then you can also add 3 cups of regular flour.
This is for you.
I know, I got the schedule.
Okay,
Oh,
I
this
got
is-
one schedule from Monica.
Good.
That's for the corn husk. And I have yet to get back to her.
How did you roast that before you grind it or after?
Roasted it before I ground it, yeah.
I'll find it.
Most people do it the other way around. Well, they said I've
When
got
I
to.
learned at the house, they talked about roasting it first and then grinding it. And some of my corn I ground up already and had it in the freezer. So then when I went to make mush, I ground it after it was ground up. It turned out a little bit more brown, a little bit more of that roasted flavor than you typically get.
Right.
How long
Your daughter's,
How long can that
Judy.
What are we making? Like that.
Ours
Ours
daughter's
lasts
right
2
here.
years.
right
The
here.
colder
it
you
in the
keep it, the
freezer?
better. Yeah.
Okay.
Miser, you're guaranteed the 2 years, you know, but it's a little better.
I make flour with mine and then put it in a baggie and then I get it stored in the freezer and it's
Oh.
I'm so upset after all that work.
Yeah, I know, right? It takes so much
Yeah, I'll
time.
do
For anything
something.
else?
Wash my hands.
Like,
3 cups of flour and 3 tablespoons
Yeah,
of
okay.
baking
Everybody
powder.
just loves that anyway.
yeah,
Sure
yeah.
you don't want to help?
Well, that's always like, you know, like when people come to our events, they're looking for corn soup, but I said, you can always make the corn soup better than I
You said
can.
3?
You know, so.
Sorry.
You're busy.
There's a big flame.
So that I can just cut it and see if it's,
Get rid of these things. Pork that way fine.
still pink. So Lucinda, we're gonna do this as soon as that's done, but I'm gonna need you just every once in a while to come and stir this up. Okay, because we're gonna start talking, so just keep it calm.
So besides doing the farming part of it, of course, we do all the processing in-house. So, and we don't have a set line on hardwood ash. I just started getting some come in, but it's not enough to do all of our corn. So what we've been using is a culinary lime or a pickling lime. And so we boil the corn with that. So for like every 12 pounds of corn, we use 3 cups of culinary or pickling lime. And we boil it for probably about 30 to 40 minutes. It really varies depending on the corn. There's different size kernels depending on which farmers. Tuscarora, they like a bigger kernel. Other native farmers like a smaller kernel. So you really have to adjust accordingly. And then of course, once the boiling process is done, the washing process is the most intense process because we want to get all that pickling lime off. We want to get it back to the natural corn state. We do use our traditional ash splint baskets. We have a Mohawk woman up at Canondagan who makes them, Tanya Gelbin. I don't know if any of you know her. She makes wonderful ash splint baskets. They last. I mean, I've been using the same one since I started working there. You know, it's been almost 2 years now, and it's still intact. And it feels wonderful when you're washing the corn, you feel the corn kernels and you feel the basket. It's just such a nice feeling. And especially since we have to do that for hours a day, it makes it more pleasurable for that. So once we're done doing the washing, we have a pH balance tester. that we test the corn with to make sure that we got all of the pickling lime off. And we get it back to either at a water level reading or at the corn, safe corn reading, which is between a 5 and a 9. If it's not there, we go back and we wash some more. So we're really, picky about making sure we get all of that pickling lime off, getting it back. And plus, we just want that natural corn flavor. We don't want that extra flavor. It is a little bit different flavor than cooking with the ash, and you'll be able to tell that if you're used to the ash. But it's still a wonderful, delicious flavor. And I'm hoping to really get more of ash coming to us. But we have to really be selective in that because we have to trust our ash source to know that it's just hardwood ash. It's not other things like cigarette butts and garbage and whatnot in it. So we're working on that currently. So once we're done with the cooking, the washing process, we use our dehydrators. As Jeanette was mentioning earlier, we have 2 big ones, 1 small dehydrator. So we just take the corn and we spread it out in the rack. And as we're spreading it out, we're picking out anything that's discolored or any of the little pieces, things like that. So we're always checking for quality as far as that's concerned. One of the things I wanted to mention, because it is kind of a difference between different communities as far as black eyes on the corn. Some of our community members don't mind the black eyes. I've been told you don't want to waste the corn, so black eyes are okay. Other community members are like, no, you can't have the black eyes, get rid of the black eyes. So we'd like to hear your opinion on that, and Lafayette's going to give out some questionnaires if he hasn't already. And if you wouldn't mind writing down what your preference is, because we really want to tailor to your community what you want. And of course, I'm really curious to know. So.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Basically, with food and our medicine, some of the objectives within our communities is to eventually, like Kim was saying, process the corn, and then eventually sell it in our stores at our Seneca one-stops, at Iroquois Smoke Shop and Crossroads and local retailers, and also incorporate it into our ECLCs on their menu, and possibly some of the local restaurants like Harvest Moon with Jackie, and just basically get it into the community. That's one of some of the objectives right there, and basically get it back into our diets like we've been saying all night. And I would like to, I just thought about this, I asked Rose to come up and speak about the process to do it traditionally, if she could do that. Then I got to thinking like, it wouldn't hurt to have 2 people, so if Lisa wouldn't mind, after Rose is done, coming up and giving her version, because I want as many notes as I can take. So this is really interesting to me, and I really enjoyed doing this. So Rose?
Okay, thank you. I'm grateful I could come up and speak about it. I never really get a chance to do this ever. This will be my first time. But usually I always clean my corn with ash, and I get my ash from my father, who's always burning wood, and it's a hardwood. I don't know how many different types, but he gets a big canister, and everybody who needs ash will usually go to his house and get some ash from him. For every quart of corn, I use a quart of ash. I usually do 4 quarts at a time, and I put 4 quarts of sifted ashes, because you don't want unsifted, because you want big chunks of wood on top of your stuff when you're rinsing it. It makes it too hard. So I get a big quart or a big container, put all my stuff together, and I have a nice ladle. I bought a ladle, and it's huge, and it's good for stirring. And you need to stir so that you don't want to burn the ashes when you're cooking it. So once you got that ashes and the corn to a good temperature, you'll start seeing it turn orange. So the orange means that the ashes are working, that it's really good, strong ash. If it doesn't turn really a bright orange, you know that you're going to be a while stirring that ashes in your soup, because it's not a strong ash and it takes a while. And what you're trying to do with the ash is pull the hull off the corn. And so once the hull starts coming off, you can tell from the ashes and the corn and the color will start getting a lesser orange, and then it'll start turning white. And then that's when you can check your corn and see how good that hull will come off the corn. So once the hull comes off easily, then you know you're done with the dehulling process, and you can start rinsing your corn. You don't want to overcook it in the ashes, because once you do that, then when you're cooking in a longer process, your corn will become too soft and mushy. So you know, sometimes when you get that mushy corn, and you can tell when you're eating it that it was cooked too long in the process of taking the hull off. So that's one thing you don't want to do. Then the next thing you do is to make it a little bit easier. Sometimes when I know it's going to take forever, I'll shut it down, all the heat, and I'll just let it sit in that ash mix. And if I let it sit there for another half hour, I'll keep going back, checking to see if the hull will come off. That makes it a lot easier than staying there stirring for 3 hours once you don't have the good ashes. It takes about 3 hours to process. So then once I get that all done, I will, my corn needs to be rinsed right away, because I don't want to cook the corn too much. I want to make sure that corn isn't overcooked, so I have to rinse it. And I'll put it in my ash basket, and I'll rinse it and rinse it and rinse it. And now there's a process when you're rinsing. You'll notice that when it's still sudsing up, that's what the lye does. It's a soap. Lye is soap, and the soap is sudsy. So if your corn is still sudsy, you can tell that you need to rinse it some more. So you just keep rinsing and rinsing and rinsing. And what I do is I pour it into the pot, then pour it into the basket, pour it into the pot, rinsing all that time. So it usually takes me about a good hour and a half to rinse my corn, maybe sometimes longer. So I get that all rinsed, and once it's rinsed and it's looking good, I know I still need to rinse some more, but it needs to set in the water. So it sets all night long soaking, and the first thing I do in the morning is get up and re-rinse it some more. But it gives it such a better flavor than the way the other process is done, that I was very noticeable when I bought the other. I tried to make corn wheels with it, and it didn't come out as flavorful as I like it. But I'm just used to that flavor now. So I'm not saying it's any better or it's worse, but I'm just saying if you're used to that flavor, that's what it's from. It's from the lye you used with the ashes. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, well, one of the things that, you know, from the Iroquois White Corn Project, what we're trying to do is to figure out what would make it easiest for you, you know, so we've done this part of it, but we also think, like, what else would you want? Because the other thing is, that's why I brought the pressure cooker, to show you that, okay, now all you have to do is, you know, rehydrate it, you know, and stuff, to start to use it. And then I told you that also, like with the corn that I have left over, I put it in a strainer, and then I take paper towels, whatever's left over, and I go through there to take as much moisture out of there as I can, and then I put it in Ziploc bags. And I'll put it in the freezer or the refrigerator, depending on how soon I'm going to use it, you know. But just so that, you know, I'm not thinking like, oh, I didn't do the corn today, you know, so I'm not going to be able to do that recipe, you know, and stuff like that. So just so that it's there, you know, and that's what we're trying to do. The other thing that what we want to do is, we have this cookbook which we gave you. You know, it's just a gift for coming tonight, and there's several different recipes, including the mush recipe, I think, is in here. And just to also get you thinking about this, is that we're going to be working on another cookbook. And this is just kind of just to get us by, but we want to do one that's about history. And so we know that there was a Iroquois women's influence on the suffragettes, and so we're working with this woman that has all these recipes from the suffragettes. And so what she was saying is that in there it keeps saying Indian corn, Indian pudding, Indian, you know, so things. So we know that they had contact, and so she's going to write this whole section about the history and that connection. And then what we wanted to do is to kind of bring it back to the communities that we're working with, and that's here in Cattaraugus. And what we want to do is to just ask you, you know, who you know has their favorite recipe. And if, you know, you can think back to a time, I can think back to a time when there's, there's that, the smell of certain food brings you back to like, oh, I remember my mother, my grandmother used to make that, and you still have that recipe, and you still do it. And you still, make that. So what we're trying to do is if you have a recipe, and if there's something that, how we can look at it and maybe even incorporate the corn, and even if we can't, we may still use the recipe too in this cookbook. Because what we're trying to do is have it connected to your communities, but we want to put, if you have something or of somebody else out in the community that's a really good cook and you said, tell us, you should go interview this person. That's what we want to do. And then get a recipe from them and get their photo in there. And if somebody happens to have their mother or their grandmother's photo or great-grandmother's photo or something where we can even put that in there, it would just be kind of cool, just to make that connection.
You know that presentation I was telling you about, I had pictures of me plowing the field and me and the girls laying out the rows and putting the planting the seeds and then actually making the corn, hulling the corn after.
Mm-hmm.
Sifting the ashes and rinsing. I got.
That's a great presentation.
That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to talk about that process of, not just the process, but what the ashes do to the corn as it goes through that process.
Yeah.
Not just hulling it, but making it even more nutritious.
Yeah, we should talk
Calcium.
as soon as we're done here because we want to do some more educational programs too at Canondagan. And what we're trying to do is, like I said about the cookbook, is get it more connected to the communities and trying to make sure that if there's someone that that's one of those great traditional cooks or somebody that brings something all the time and then they have that recipe that was passed down, that's what we want, is to just have those shared. So right now you have the pork chili in front of you, and this recipe, usually I like it to cook a little bit longer, stuff, just so that everything just blends together. But what we're going to do, we'd like you to try it, and the cornbread also, we'd like to have you try that. If you're interested and you want to take some of that corn home with you, and then you can even continue to put it in a crock pot and let it cook even low overnight.
Yes.
Oh my God. By tomorrow morning you'll wake up and you'll want it for breakfast.
I'll clean my corn, and then when I go to put my soup on, I get it on the stove and then I get it boiling.
Yeah.
And then I'll turn it down. The flame is
As low.
small
Yeah.
as smallest flame I can get. Go to bed, wake up,
Oh yeah.
the smell of corn through the house, and the corn's up.
Yeah.
It's just great.
Oh, it is. So we want to thank you all for coming, and participating in this, and we hope that you'll take the time to come to Canondagan sometime and see us at the White Corn Project. We're in a big white farmhouse there, and you can see how we process the big coffee roaster that we have that roasts our corn, and just the process. And we would love to have any one of you come and visit us. And also, don't forget to think about those recipes, and if there's anybody that we can contact, and if it's you, we want to talk to you. Okay? So thanks you guys for coming out tonight.